the armored car still hanging around, continuing to receive heavy fire now also from the mortar. A medic station going up to reclaim any wounded so they won't have to lie out in the open and die a slow, horrible death. And Broken has decided to garrison this building, although considering how damaged it is, it's not something I'd recommend, since a few mortar rounds and the entire thing will collapse, killing the men inside it. Further heavy fighting in the north. The British calling in an armored truck, but apparently Relic has foreseen this, so mines won't trip it. Although it is running right into a pack and flamethrowers. And the question is if it will survive it or not just be instantly destroyed. Taking further heavy fire from the pack. Barely escaping, much to the glee of the crew inside the truck. The Panzer Elite armored car continuing, having received a defensive upgrade, meaning it's a bit faster and a bit tougher, and decides to annihilate the mortar crew. Further on, another armored car is being repaired by Panzer Grenadiers, some having received the MP-44. Now the north has been completely given up to the Germans, Broken having fortified it, and the supply truck is perilously close to Broken's forces, and if spotted could probably easily be taken out. And looks like in fact it has already been damaged quite well, which I must have missed, I'm afraid. The Americans suffering further losses, the British hiding along with the captain brandishing his Webley revolver. And here we see a wrecked armored car, probably taken out by Piats or the Bren guns, since they can also do quite a lot of damage. The sniper has been added in fact, which is quite effective against the Panzer Elite, since they have little to defend themselves against with. And a Bofors 14mm anti-aircraft cannon has gone up, effective against both infantry and light vehicles, although not able to provide any sort of suppression. Looks like Broken has taken care of the supply truck. The packs opening fire on the exposed supply yard, and the American apparently trying to repel the attackers, although he doesn't have much left, only a mortar and some riflemen, and a handful of engineers with flamethrowers. But the British, they do still seem to have a tight grip on the center and southern part of the map, although that won't do them much good if Broken can attack the main base and force them out of there. And they are now in fact securing the rear area of what is usually the Allies sector, but with nothing to contest them, they can do so safely. Another supply depot yard is being set up, not depot. Good lord, sounds like I'm playing StarCraft. I deeply apologize, dear listeners. I'll do my best not to let that happen again. Heavy fighting taking place, and the British is trying to break out in the north, but finding himself under heavy fire from the machine gun. The infantry section is finding itself pinned down, in fact right now, unable to move any further under the accurate and withering fire of the MG-42. The assault on the American base is still continuing, although having slowed down a bit at the moment, and Broken seems to have gone a bit excessive with the MG bunkers, apparently figuring he might expect some heavy infantry counterattack. And Dutch is moving his Panzer Grenadiers in to the north, probably deciding that any frontal assaults here won't do them any good, and seemingly might try to attack from the north here, since there are less defenses. And we have a 25-pounder gun going up for Meerkat, probably will try to knock out the large groups of Panzer Grenadiers. A supply truck is called in. Not sure what Broken is trying to do with that bunker, but that supply truck is going to find itself, or support truck, is going to find itself in deep trouble, crashing right into the pack and taking heavy fire from German gunfire. The Panzer Grenadiers moving in to support. Broken's attempts, the support truck going out. The American base finding itself besieged from all sides now. No machine gun nest here to keep the panzer grenadiers out, so now the anti-tank gun and the mortar are easy targets for the panzer grenadiers, who are now mowing them down without mercy. Plenty of riflemen, and apparently the American player has gone for airborne and had called in an anti-tank gun, but to little avail in the face of the panzer grenadier horde. And currently things are looking grim for the Allies, since they have little to support the Americans. The British player has gone too heavy on the defenses, meaning he doesn't have much for manpower, and right now is finding himself beset on all sides as well, and yet not able to react much, which is rather a problem. If you go heavily with emplacements of any sort, you are in fact giving up the initiative, allowing the enemy to decide where to strike, which we are seeing here, while the Broken and Dutch are now constantly focusing on the American player. We can only do so much against overwhelming forces from both sides. And in fact, the American headquarters has gone down, meaning he can't call in any further support, and now only has the support center and the barracks to rely on. The armor truck is holding out here, but apparently hasn't been used at all. I wonder why, but so it seems a bit wasteful if he calls in one but doesn't even use it at all. And the 25 pounder is firing away, trying to stop something, but not really having much luck, since Broken has gone for the defensive doctrine, meaning his bunkers are much tougher, and also allowing him to build the Flak 88, which is now receiving 25 pounder fire, although none of it apparently hitting. The American base is now more or less completely annihilated, except for a single barracks. The Panzer Grenadier player is amassing for another frontal assault, once more amassing in men, and if you watched one of my previous replays, you will know I'm not entirely comfortable with this sort of strategy, but apparently here he can get away with it, in particular since the other players haven't really been able to put up a concerted defense. And we're finding an MG-42 suppressing all the British and combined American troops, while the Panzer Grenadiers are now moving in on the post, knocking out the 25 pounder, or at least that's their intention. And so we find the Allies without much infantry and not much to do, while the Axis troops are merely striking wherever they want to, without much opposition at this moment. And an attempt to secure the mortar, but quickly annihilated, and Flak 88 fire killing further infantrymen, having in fact killed 4. Not bad. And Flak 88 fire was also used to bombard infantry during World War II. It was in fact a quite versatile weapon. Besides just anti-aircraft, anti-tank, it could also be used as a rather direct fire type of artillery. The Germans launching an attack, this time perhaps a bit foolishly, since the Bofors anti-aircraft cannon can now provide support fire against the Panzer Grenadiers, who are partly out in the open and are now also under mortar fire, suffering heavy losses, forcing numerous squads to retreat, while the British are in a stronger position. They can be easily reinforced in good cover, and numerous sections and a pier opening fire as well, forcing the Panzer Grenadiers to retreat further and further before losing too many men. And one poor Panzer Grenadier lying wounded in the trench, abandoned by his comrades, unable to help him due to the rather rash actions of his commander, it seems. The American player still holding out, just barely, and Broken going further bunker heavy and Flak 88 heavy. Must admit that seems a bit grotesque, but at this point he can't easily get away with it since his opponents aren't really able to strike back at all anymore. British player trying to secure a mortar emplacement once more to provide some mortar fire, but perhaps at this point it's not really what the best choice. Perhaps he should have gone for something out of that armor command track, perhaps Cromwell or a Firefly, or at least something that can deal with all of this. But at this moment it is simply too late. Broken has secured the entire northern map after the British player so easily gave it up, and then proceeded to use most of his resources to digging in without actually having anything that could counter-attack or hold any sort of territory. So, good lesson in what not to do. And calling in a priest, that's rather wasteful, I think. And it's only going to find itself taken out by that Flag 88. Currently it's turned into a slaughter of the Allied troops since and already Marino has left, realizing there's nothing at all he can do at this moment. And the British player still holding out a bit, hoping for something to change the tide. But doesn't look like he's going to last much longer under all this fire from the German Panzer Grenadiers under the command of Dutch. The Bofors was explosively decrewed for sending the crew to all sides. So there you have it, a 2 versus 2, the first of possibly many. I might do more in the future, although they can be a bit harder to track, as you may have noticed. But it does show the importance of not really opening up one of your allies' sides to enemy opposition and rushing ahead trying to secure some central point without really providing any sort of rear guards. It's also a good point why you really shouldn't go heavy on the emplacement, since for the most part he didn't really have much to strike back with, leaving his ally, the American player Marino, to do most of the actual fighting, and of course suffering heavy attrition in the process, which he couldn't really keep up with. So, hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please subscribe, and if you feel like you want to send in a replay for me to comment on, be free to do so. Feel free. Cheers!